Welcome back, everyone. I'm so excited that you're with us on 33 Founders today because I'm here with Brooke Hammerling, the founder of Brew PR. Thank you so much for being with me today.
Thanks so much for having me.
Brooke, I'm really excited that you're here, and I want to rewind back to the early days when you were living in the Valley on a houseboat in Sausalito. And I read an article that said that people used to joke that you whispered in the ears of Silicon Valley influencers. Let's go back to those days.
Well, now I'm not so whispering. I'm more like yelling at them, I think. I like to say I'm yelling. Yeah, those days were interesting. It feels, in so many ways, it feels like it was just yesterday. I was just a kid who knew that she wanted to be in the technology world, and I drove myself across country from New York to Los Angeles and then finally made my way up to San Francisco, and was very fortunate to be there in the sort of beginning stages of what became the first iteration of the consumer internet, so Web 1.0, and that was 97, 98. And I started working at a PR firm and was living with a boyfriend at the time who was living on a houseboat in Sausalito. And I say to people that I was living my adulthood then, and I've gotten progressively younger as I've gotten older. So I was like commuting into the big city, and I was getting home and going to the grocery store and going to the gym and then cooking and then like watching Seinfeld with my boyfriend at the time. It was a very different life than the one I have in New York now. But it was the way I like to describe San Francisco at that point is sort of what I imagine Hollywood was like in the beginning days when there were sort of 5 movie stars around and everybody was sort of like looking around like, what's this? What's going on? What are these people that we're spending time with all about? And I think that's really the way it was in Silicon Valley. It was everybody was sort of available, accessible, and it wasn't dominated by an entire culture of tech entrepreneurs, but it was a very new thing, and the people that were there early sort of earned their stripes, and now many of them are successful gazillionaires in their own right.
One of my favorite things about your time there that I've read in previous articles is the effort that you constantly made to get to know individuals outside of their role. So you didn't just want to know someone because they were the CEO of a company.
I think that was, I love Malcolm Gladwell's book, Outliers. I think a lot of that was luck and good timing. As more has been defined about this sort of personalities of people, I think that I'm very much, well, many people might argue with me, but I'm very much an introvert disguised as an extrovert. And in order to to get myself off the couch, especially because when I was young, at that age, my parents died, and then I wasn't expecting it, and there was that need to sort of to disconnect and to hide and to pull back. And what I found that was allowing me to sort of have a safety net, if you will, was this need to build a community for myself in a new place, and getting to know people that I was being thrown together with. They were media, they were CEOs, they were people that were just graduating school that became media or CEOs, and developed relationships with them, not transactionally, which I think so many people in PR unfortunately get themselves caught up in, and you'll hear from a lot of reporters who say, well, I left the media world, and these people I thought were my friends, these communications people, never to hear from them again. And the fact is, if you're with these brilliant minds, regardless of what field they're in, you want to stay close to them and learn from them. And that's what I've been very fortunate in building my career on and navigating. And a lot of people that I started out friends with in the early stages have grown up to be powerhouses in media, whether they're editors-in-chief or running their own broadcast show, or CEOs of Fortune 500 companies. So it's kind of amazing.
Who are the individuals who made a really big impact on you that you're still close with today?
The list is long. Close to is a relative term. I'd say somebody who made a big impact on me early on, and I am still close with, is Larry Ellison. And I adore him. I think he is the penultimate in terms of success stories. Genius, somebody who has stayed focused on their vision. Somebody who believes in work and play and having fun at both and working hard at both. And somebody who's always has time, I think is the way. I mean, another person who's no longer here, but that I was incredibly lucky to have had access to, and his guidance was Dave Goldberg, who I've heard so many people talking about. They never could understand how he always had time for them, and that's something that I found was true on my case as well. I mean, that he always made time to give back to entrepreneurs and to give them guidance, and to never feel that you were asking something from him that was burdensome or whatnot. So he had a major impact on me. Kara Swisher, I will say, has inspired me over the years. I've watched her navigate her career beautifully, and I'm lucky to have her as a friend, but I also remain scared of her, so it's a good friendship. And she loves that. I'd say Mark Andreessen, unbelievable. I mean, I've known Mark. I'm not nearly as close with him now, just, business and life and everything, but I'm still inspired by him on a regular basis, and I've known him since he first sold his company, Netscape, and was on the board of the startup that I was working at, and then watched him navigate into, one of the biggest thought leaders in this world. Corey Johnson, got to give him a shout out. Corey, who is at Bloomberg. He's on Bloomberg TV and Bloomberg Radio. An unbelievable career. I knew him when he was at CNBC. He's an example of a journalist that left journalism, went into the finance world, where I became even closer to him because there wasn't an agenda, and then he's back in the journalism world. So I could go on. We could be here all day. But these are all, I mean, Mark Pincus, Mark Benioff, all of these people I knew back in '98.
When you reflect on that time, and then you fast forward that 7 years to when you started Brew, compare and contrast Brooke when you were just starting Brew PR to the Brooke that I'm sitting with today. How have you evolved the last 10 years?
Yeah, it's going to be 10 years. First of all, time is without question the strangest thing. And anybody who can clearly write a story, and I'm not talking about French literature, but a real modern day person who can tell me how time works, because 10 years to me seems baffling when I remember exactly the outfit that I was wearing when I decided to start Brew.
No way.
Conversations I was having. I remember the movie I was in and what I was wearing when I was panicking about leaving my safe, secure job and having this new adventure. First and foremost, I am incredibly honored to have Dina Cook, who's my business partner, join me shortly after I had this vision and stay with me. And one of the things I think that women in particular have a really hard time with is the assumption that we can't partner and be great team together. I got a lot of feedback from people that say, well, women in business, you're bound to blow up. I had some people even say, we're going to sit back and watch this, eating popcorn, and watch the fireworks go. Because they really assumed that women in a creative business especially were not going to be able to take it to the next level. So it's been an amazing ride for 10 years. But the Brooke that I was then, I would say, is probably calmer and cooler than I am now. No, I mean, I remember very distinctly the thought of what would this be in 10 years. And never in my life did I imagine that we'd be 3 offices and, working with some of the most incredible companies, from Oracle to NetSuite to Maker Studio to Daiquiri to Eero and everything in between. I think that the person, if I had known then what I knew now, was to say sort of don't sweat the small stuff, which I still sort of do, but I remind myself to breathe and to recognize that it's all going to be sort of, worthwhile. But I'm the same person. I mean, I think that's true. I just am maybe a bit more risk adverse than I was then. Now that I know.
What would you say is the highlight
The people that I work with, getting to see people grow, and you know, I had a really rough first experience in my first two jobs, and I remember, I mean, I love them and I credit them with so much training and whatnot, but it was such a challenge to go to work sometimes. There was fear, or there was exhaustion, there was an uncertainty of what I was doing and who I was doing it for, because there was such a disconnect between the junior people and the client that I worked with, so you would never have that sort of access. So it was sort of in a funnel, and it just sort of, you know, didn't really mean something. And so I want it to mean something. I want everybody to have a tangible experience with changing the game, with moving the needle, with having access to the clients. That means good and bad. They see me in not the best of light sometimes, and maybe in much better light than other times, but because I keep everything very open. So I think the highlight, though, is to see people grow, and when they do leave Brew, go into such beautiful new experiences that they wouldn't have had opportunity-wise if they hadn't been here. And then another highlight, if I'm allowed to have a few, was the success of some of our companies and them crediting Brew with that success, at least for part of it. We had a company called Bluefin Labs that was purchased by Twitter, which was an amazing success for them, and they showed their gratitude to us and thanked us for all the support publicly. And GroupMe, which is the group messaging app that we love, and the founders are clients now in their own companies since leaving Skype, and they credited us with a huge amount of their success. Zong, which was acquired by PayPal, David Marcus, just one of the greatest leaders of all time, now running Facebook Messenger. You know, seeing those success stories, seeing them get to the penultimate of where they wanted to be, that's kind of amazing. So,
you mentioned some of your clients, and one of the things that intrigues me most about Brew is that it almost seems like the opposite of traditional PR, because you're really getting in there, you're getting your hands dirty, and you're helping brands build a core that's going to last and be sustainable. Tell me about your and your team's approach to helping brands do that.
Well, I think every team and every approach is different. Remember my old jobs, there used to be like a playbook, and you sort of would insert company name in here, and the playbook would sort of be, you know, obviously this isn't true to every extent, but it was sort of the same, and you would sort of just iterate on it. I think first and foremost, it's the clients that we select to work with, and we have a very key differentiator than most, and that is we are really viewed and demand to be viewed as partners, not service providers. When you take that element, it's so different when you change that, because service providers, then we are literally just tactical beings that are being given a set of objectives that we just have to sort of act upon. And that's when you just get, you know, press releases with no thought and sent, and everybody's getting pitched. You're getting pitched for
the copy paste disaster, yeah.
Yeah, and like you're like, I don't cover hardware launches. Why am I getting this? But they just have a list of media, and their objective is placement with no thought, no cohesive strategy. And so when you change it to being partners, and you realize that then the founders of those companies, and that's whether it's a 5-person company or a 50,000-person company, we have to have access to them. They have to be really passionate drivers of that story and be willing to be a part of that. And that's hard. You know, not every CEO wants to be a part of the PRs. They want to push that aside to somebody else, and I understand that. But in today's day and age, the narrative does have to come from the core team. So for us to really get in and be viewed as that, and then the clients that we take on have to see us that way. And we also have to be big believers of their product. So we can have a company that, you know, will offer us the moon and the stars and the sun budget-wise, but if we can't really get behind their product or their team, that's useless to me, because I can't get my team, they won't be passionate about that. And we've seen that happen sometimes, where we take something for the wrong reasons, or we are, you know, sort of, you know, beholden because they're friends or whatnot, and it ultimately isn't going to be a success for us because we can't really get behind it passionately and truthfully. So we are only working with companies that we can really put a stake in the ground and have a substantive, can't even speak today, but you know, a solid, thoughtful, strategic approach to their long-term vision. And building categories is something that we love. Building brands, helping build teams. Looking at a company like Refinery 29, which is, you know, I mean, they're about to have their 10th anniversary, so we're the same age. You think about this company that's grown up and now is, you know, dominating the world of you know, media with a very focused female lens to it. But it's evolved over time. But, you know, you can't find many young women who don't know what Refinery 29 is, and that's pretty amazing. So I think that the process is we're very top-down versus bottom-up, if that makes sense. We work with the top, and we help get their story and narrate it, and we come up with a message, and then we come up with a cohesive plan, and everyone is different, whether we're launching a product or a team or a company or a concept, or we're entering midstream to a company that's been in existence for years but needs to sort of retweak what it is. We then share that story in a really passionate way with people we have relationships with, whether, you know, the press, the influencers, the media across the different categories in business and technology. And I think they feel that we're a trusted resource. And so that's a different relationship than they may have with other people in the communications business.
When it comes to helping them, once you establish that message and then you're going to help them spread it, you've said before that it's difficult to get anything across unless you do something bold. And one of the best examples was GroupMe at South by Southwest. It is amazing the power of a grilled cheese sandwich.
Yeah, you know, it's been done now. The funniest thing is we were back at I go back to South by every year, and now there's somebody always doing that, and I'm like, can't, now that once it's been done, like it doesn't have the same impact. And we couldn't recreate that. It was the perfect time, the perfect place. It was the perfect time in that company's existence. It was a fluke, so it was literally Malcolm Gladwell's Outliers. It was luck, it was timing, it was a huge amount of work and a lot coming together all at once. So that GroupMe example was great. This was in the height of the group messaging wars. This was the first time that GroupMe was going into an app functionality before it had just been SMS. So we're launching the app, and we happened to have somebody on staff at the time who was a UT graduate and knew about this space that had not been, for whatever reason, years ago, used as a had not been rented out. Nobody had thought of it as an area because it was this little shack right across from the convention center. And we grabbed it up and came up with the idea of giving away grilled cheese and Shiner Bock beer by proof, just by showing that you had downloaded the GroupMe app. And then got even more creative and had a branding iron with the GroupMe grill logo, GroupMe logo on it, which we branded onto the grilled cheese. But more than anything, what we did was we made it a meeting place. We let all of the media and influencers know that right across the street from the convention center was a place they could meet up with friends, they could tell somebody to meet them, that would have free food and beer, that we had Wi-Fi, that we had music on Sonos. When it was raining, we would have the tents, that kind of thing. So it worked out beautifully. And when I say bold, it doesn't mean always a gimmick, an event, something like that. Bold can be how we approach the conversation, what the stake in the ground is in terms of the messaging. And so it's just being very, very strong and confident in that sort of line of vision that you want to go after, what your goal is to achieve, and then be bold in that. Be tenacious. I have a French bulldog, right? Those bulldogs have it. So we sort of have that approach. And meaning that we have an idea, the company has a vision and a brand that they want to get forth. We come up with a vision and how we're going to make that happen, and we stay with it, and we stick with it, and we just go after it.
What is another example that doesn't necessarily have to do with the grilled cheese stand, although I don't know if anything can beat that you've done recently that exemplifies that?
I think one of the ones that we had a lot of fun with, and it turned out to be Larry Ellison's last interview as CEO, because he, after this came out, announced that he was moving to CTO, which I love how everybody in the media was like, he's taking a step back and retiring. CTO is the Chief Technology Officer of one of the largest companies in the world. It's not a small gig. But one of the visions that Oracle had, and the communications team at Oracle is that their marketing communications team is one of the best in the world. And you watched a company that's evolved over time where their audience, their customer was the CTO or the CIO. That's an amazing, audience base, and that's sort of the chief decision makers in technology. But where the enterprise market has seen NetSuite and Oracle and the like is that all of a sudden the CMO has become their customer. They're the ones that are buying technologies. All of these marketing technologies are massive, and Oracle's moved into the marketing cloud, obviously, and that's a big, big initiative for them. So how do you communicate that story? How do you tell that story to the thoughtful brand leaders that might not even think of that connection? And so one of the visions that we had was having Larry just tell that straight story to Ad Age, which is one of the big media outlets in the media and marketing and advertising space. And, they are thinking, why would we interview Larry Ellison? And Larry's thinking, why would we talk to Ad Age? That doesn't make any sense. But lo and behold, we did it. And I wish I had it with me, but it's the cover, and it came out, I don't know how long ago now, but within the year, it came out where it said, Larry loves you as the CMO, and then was a great story, sort of outlining what Oracle's vision is and what the marketing cloud meant and why it meant something to them. And that was being bold and creative and thinking out of the box. That turned into a really sick, and it was risky because, I'm taking, a vision that we had and putting our name on it. And if it had gone sideways, you're dealing with one of the most, powerful and wealthiest and smartest men in the world. If it's going to come out badly, that's going to fall on me. But those are the risks that we sort of take here and thrive on.
That does sound like a super intense risk. So,
oh yeah.
When it comes to taking that risk, you mentioned something really interesting before we started recording, that when you're looking for individuals to add to your team, they don't have a standard resume that you're searching for.
No, in fact, it's probably a little bit better if they don't. I find that you don't need to be a trained, tech PR person to really thrive at Brew. You don't even necessarily need to come from the specific public relations industry. You can come from a side of it of a business where you're just really good at telling a story, or really good at one of the things I found with me was that I love taking complex stories and simplifying them to where they were understandable, which then made it sense to being able to not bore a reporter to tears if you're talking about a very, very techie project, right? So being able to get them to understand it, but not bore them to death with the details. So finding somebody who loves to tell stories, who has an enthusiasm for whatever it is that they're doing, and can passionately sort of get that story out in a number of different ways. So we find that some of our most successful people come from fashion or media or finance, and obviously tech and communications is key to where we're going. But it's hard when you've been sort of overly trained by a PR firm for years and years and years to strip back your thinking and say, everything I've been taught, we're going to do differently now. And we're not a yes agency. We're going to push back. We're going to say it like it is, and what's working and what isn't, and have boundaries and make sure that these things are being done the right way and efficiently. And I call it this sense of urgency without feeling, that doesn't mean crisis or like stress. It just means like we have to work in an efficient, quick, fast-paced way, but that keeps us sort of energized, and people from different industries have that, not just tech. So, if somebody comes from the fashion world, digital lifestyle, digital media, things like that, they come into the Brew environment and they totally get it. So we're always hiring. We're looking across different industries.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because it reminds me of a great insight that I read in a previous interview where someone said that a lot of PR people will just accept the explanation a reporter gives. Brooke will say, if you can't fix it, I'll go to your editor. And then while they're responding to you, you've already gone to the editor. How do you ensure that the individuals that you're bringing on your team are going to go to bat in the same way and take the same risk that you're willing to take for your team and for your partners?
Gosh, where was that? I don't even remember that.
Old
Um,
article. What's a great insight?
so, I do have to be careful. I get myself into trouble sometimes. I fully accept that. One of the things that I try to do at Brew is to get everyone on the team to know that at the end of the day, I'll take the hit. If there's a mess up, if we do something wrong, which we do, nobody's perfect. We will mess up. Something will not be perfect. A reporter will get angry, or and then somebody's news will break, and we have to take that. But taking responsibility is something that I find is really a beautiful thing to teach, but also getting rid of that element of fear. Like, I want my team to learn and to know that they can work, and when they don't get something totally right, that's not the end of the world. But at the end of the day, if there is a problem and the client or reporter or editor is upset, I'll take the hit. Dina takes the hit, because ultimately it is our responsibility. And I don't care if we're 30 people, if we're 50 people, if we're 5,000 people. That's what I bring to the table. But I also want to teach the senior management the same thing. So the people that work at Brew, I think, see via, everything is open here. So they see how we work. But they also know that it's not siloed into one person's head. So we work really collaboratively. So we bounce ideas off of. And if somebody else on a team that might not be working on that client has a relationship with the editor that I might not have, or that the team member might not have, they'll go and circumvent it that way. And we're not looking to bully anybody on the media side into giving us our way. We want to get feedback. That's what we love. If somebody doesn't like a story, why? Tell us, give us that. How can we do our job better next time? So that's sort of what we do. I have gone to editors, and it's just because most of the time they're people that I've grown up with over the years that have become, that's one of the benefits of being old. I say that.
Okay, so before we shift gears, I just have one more question about Brew. When it comes to the work that your team is doing, what's your single point of truth?
My single point of truth? Wow. I think we are storytellers, but we're not creating stories. We are truth tellers in a way. We don't want to put spin. That's the opposite of what we do. We're not trying to sell ice to Eskimos. So for us, when I see my team really excited about something, when it all comes together and they love to tell what that story is that they've just come to do, and then they tell that reporter the story, and then that story becomes an article, and that article comes to life, and you see the excitement. That's it. That's truth. That's what and then you see the needle move, and you see, oh my gosh, all the work that we've just done for 3 months that turned into this article or whatnot. A great example is an article that came out last week on The Verge on a client of ours. That's the GIC.
That was great. They're doing really interesting work.
So, and that's something that the team we've worked on. We have this vision, and it's like, how do you tell a really unbelievable story? And that's credit to Ben Popper, who's the writer, but about a company that's investing, partnering, acquiring, and accelerating companies, not actually making anything. How do you tell that? And it's part of Samsung, which is, a behemoth company that everybody, knows has footprint everywhere. And it came out magically. And that's because we were able to sort of unfold all these different pieces and work together as a team to sort of create this vision. And that, to me, is a moment of truth.
Yeah, that was an excellent piece. Really, really interesting
I'm
work.
so glad you saw that.
So, Brew PR aside, no more intense questions. Fill in the blank. Brooke Hammerling is?
Complicated. Not as I appear on, I tell my team I get a little frustrated because sometimes I think that I get a little waylaid in the pressures of running a business, because I love the account side. If I could just do nothing else but work on the client side and the media side. But what happens is when you run a business, there's 450 other things that are happening, coming at you from all different ways. And I don't deal with my frustrations so well. So I always try to get the team to see me outside of the office, so they know that the woman within the walls isn't always, the one that stresses and bites her nails, is actually kind of carefree and likes to dance on tables at times. So the Brooke outside of Brew, I'd say I'm an adventurer. If I could just, if I could redefine my job, it would be Paula Froelic's job over at Yahoo, who's built the Yahoo Travel Channel into something that is a must-see. But she's also seen the world, and I follow her with every breath that I could possibly take. So, and I'm a bit carefree on that, and I'm a passionate lover of rock and roll. Um, there's a lot more. I could keep going, and I love my dog, Potato. It's a gift from Shervin P. Shavar. So Potato is Potato P. Shavar Hammerling. So he should get credit.
When you mentioned travel, you said that if you weren't running Brew, you would A, be living in the south of France as a novelist, B, be helping women start businesses in Africa, or C, running a bar on a tropical island that also had a scuba diving school.
Yeah, wow. Okay. That pretty much defines me as a human right there. We need to say anything more. If I could do all three, I would. Yeah, thanks to, I mean, I could say Charity Water, certainly. I've always had a passion for travel, and my mom, before she died, her passion was, she was an AIDS activist and was very, very vocal on that, and had been for many years trying to get over to Africa, but was too sick. So when I went, it was a real homage to her, and I've gone a lot now, and of course, seeing the beauty of it. I mean, there's something so beautiful if you can go to Botswana or Kenya or any of those places and see the wild side, the beauty of Africa. But then there's the heart and soul as well of the people, and the struggles as well in the different countries. So I'm really profoundly empowered by things like Kiva and what they're doing in terms of these microloans for women. I would love to, or microloans for businesses. I'm particularly focused on the ones for women. I would love to do that whilst running my beach bar in a off a scuba shop while making beaded jewelry. But or also writing books in the south of France. All of these I think are achievable, and I'm certainly working really hard to make happen.
They all sound pretty great.
Yeah, I'm the novelist in the south of France is becoming less appealing to me. But the Caribbean bar and the helping female-driven businesses in not just Africa, I would say, and just in third world countries all around the world.
I love it. So in addition to that, you're also a very passionate cook, which I love. And
trying, I wouldn't say passionate. I'm definitely trying. I am very, very fortunate to have very good friends in my life who are great chefs. And my partner, he is a wonderful chef. And so this competitive edge in me definitely is rising. I make like 4 things really awesomely, but I'm learning as I go. I did, to my credit, I think, make the entire Thanksgiving meal this year for like 18 dishes or something like that, and nothing out of the box.
That is impressive.
So yeah, I even brined a turkey. It was a very big. Excited.
When you're not having the truffle pasta and lamb chops.
Oh God, you really did your research. Oh
I can't miss out on truffles. I don't think I've ever seen that many truffles on pasta.
Yeah, the benefits of knowing in New York you get access to a lot of amazing food, but Mario Batali is hands down the greatest chef I think in the world, and I will eat whatever he puts in front of me, and if that happens to be an entire mound of truffles, I have no problems with the fact I'm not going to be a size 2. I'll weigh that with the benefits of eating truffles. But yeah, when I'm not doing that, which is rarely, not rarely, I guess I'm doing it a lot.
When you're not having that, but you're cooking at home, what is your favorite thing to make? One of the 4 that you're really proud of?
Oh, that's a really good question. I have a very easy, basic, famous, I'm not allowed to give the recipe away, but you can go to GoldenEye in Jamaica, and I believe they're soon putting it on the menu at the Bijou Bar in Jamaica. GoldenEye, great resort. Everyone go check it out. That's my kale salad. It's amazing. It requires actually no talent whatsoever, but it just requires a lot of love. I will say I make a beautiful roast chicken. It's my favorite thing, like comfort.
That's my favorite food.
Oof, it's my favorite. And like a truffle mashed potato in the winter when carbs are okay. And I'm learning to make this really cool, like I was always afraid of making fish. And now one of my friends, Jennifer, gave me this amazing recipe. You get one of these salt boxes, like the thing that's
I've heard of this.
this is amazing. And you literally just put the fish down on it, and then you put it in the oven for like 11 minutes, and it comes out, and everyone thinks you're this great chef, and literally it's nothing. You just season it, maybe with a little lemon, nothing else. It's amazing. Salmon, everything, the whole thing.
Fish intimidates me. That's
Skin
it.
side down, and 11 minutes, and voila, you're cooked.
All right, last two questions. The first one, what's one question that you've always wanted to be asked, but nobody's ever asked you?
Oh, um, ooh. I would say, there are a few of them. And maybe it's a question I don't even know myself. I mean, what would you have become if you hadn't gone to San Francisco? I think is something that's a big one. What do you want to be when you grow up? I'm still figuring that out. So, I don't know the answer to the San Francisco one. I am so fortunate for the choices I made in my life. But I think if the answer to that question is if I never took risks, I wouldn't be living as fulfilled of a life as I am now.
When it comes to who you want to be when you grow up, what are some of the things on that list?
I want to be I want to be calmer than I am now, maybe. I want to inspire people to just sort of, again, take risks and to do things that they're color outside of the lines. And I want to be a really good friend and partner and mother in whatever way that looks right now down the road. And that can be to any number of things in any number of ways. And a much better cook.
Well, I'll follow up on all of those, but we'll keep close tabs on the cooking.
Yeah. I'll start a cooking show.
Okay, so last question. I'd love to end with a great insight from El Luna. Have you read The Crossroads of Should and Must?
No, and this is on my list, so now I feel really like a failed human. But I do have it on my list.
You will love it. It's a short read and very impactful, but she defines must, and I'm not giving anything away, this is right in the beginning. She defines must as the time when we're alone with the truest, most authentic versions of ourselves, the intuition that explodes inside of us. For you, Brooke, what's your must?
That's a really good question. I'm still figuring it out. I've been dabbling in TM, Transcendental Meditation. So I've done it really, and then I put it on hold, and I'm everybody who knows me will watch this and say, yeah, it's time to get back into it. I think maybe one of my fears with that is that's probably was my must. It was the closest to the me. And sometimes for the business I'm in and the world I've created for myself, you have a lot of characters that are running around. And so to be that authentic self, it's really scary. It's really, it's scary. But I'd say the closest thing to being me is, the closest thing to that, the true, is being silent, believe it or not, because I talk so much. My partner, he would laugh at this, but being silent and sort of just not talking but observing and just walking. Generally, like when I close my eyes and when I meditate, I always find that I'm in the same exact place when I need to get to that deep place of centering. And it's sitting or walking along a beach with the water sort of just going up against my feet and experiencing that without saying anything. So I think that's probably it.
So it's time to come to San Diego then.
I know. New York is not my center.
But I can't thank you enough for sharing such authentic and meaningful responses today.
Thanks for having me. I'm so honored you have such an amazing group of people that you've interviewed. So I'm very honored.
Thank you. The honor is all mine. How can everyone stay up to date with you and what your team is working on?
Well, you can follow the Brew account on Twitter at Brew PR. and on Instagram. I am on both at Twitter and Instagram as at Brooke, Brooke.
You have the best Twitter.
I
There's a lot of gems on there.
I get really my live event tweets are really probably my icing on the cake. Like the last one, the debate one with Donald Trump, and really all those schmoes. It was really fun. And then Potato, obviously, my dog. You can follow him on Instagram at Potato.
Thank you so much, Brooke.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed it.